buses, and then you've got some spares.
42, and then,
About 24 here.
yeah, 24 and 42.
Including spares.
Okay, so do we have the accommodations for 70 buses?
That's what they'll be.
Well, we've done that analysis, and there'll have to be some parking, and I can't tell you where I'm at in this room compared to where that will be, Laura.
Where the staff and the student parking is, we're looking at, some of that would be renovated so that half of that would become a bus yard.
A bus lot, so we'll put up appropriate fencing, put in the block heaters so that the buses, actually will start during the winter.
And at this point in
The west
time,
parking lot.
combining student and staff parking, we're going to have more than adequate parking available, as well as for events that we do have at the football field and basketball and such, by using just the one parking lot.
Because the north parking lot, the north side parking lot would stay open for that reason, and the south side would be used for the bus yard, which means that for the events that we have, especially for the football field, the parking is still available for the front of that.
And I would just add for the board members who haven't been part of the committee, you should be proud of your members who serve on the committee, because first and foremost, as Christine said, the bottom line is what's best for kids, and how do we leverage resources so that we can, at the end of the day, be doing the best that we can for the students in the two school districts. We've had some tough conversations at the table and asked difficult questions. We've always left the room being able to talk to each other, but you should also know that we've been willing to put those things on the table. And so I think that when recommendations come forward from that committee, there's a lot of thought and back and forth before we actually get to the point where we can say this is something that we want to take to both boards. And I appreciate the open dialogue that I've observed over the past 4 months working with the committee.
Thank you,
Yes.
Scott.
Ms. Kelly, I was about to say.
On the behalf of both unions, I'm kind of speaking for Kathleen, probably shouldn't, but we have conversation about this. This is a win-win for both districts, as we feel. Our resources for both of us are affecting our jobs as teachers, and we're the direct contact with those students. This is one more way that we can save money. It provides an empty building for you with something in it, and for us, a building that we need to get. So it couldn't be better timing, I think, for both districts, and we see it as our future getting closer and closer together. And the unions have been talking about that actually for probably the last 5 years, saying, I think someday we may be one, and willing to say whatever that looks like, whether it's pieces or whatever it means. If it gets money into the classroom, we are all for that. So we are very supportive of this situation and think it's only the beginning of what we can really do and make it very good for children.
Thank you.
Mr. Byron, do you have anything to say since you was on the committee?
It's been a very good committee and working together with Ypsilanti. And it also shows that we are doing something. We're not just meeting. We are coming up and brainstorming some ideas for collaboration to happen. I think this is the first step, and this is a good step. And just like she said, it's a win-win for both districts. So I hope we continue to move towards more collaboration.
And lastly speaking, I never would have thought that Ypsilanti and Willow could get together and speak anyway. All the past stuff that we used to hear. No, I'm dead serious, and I'm telling the truth. And when Mr. Bates approached me last year sometimes, we talked about the little confrontation that the two districts had. I didn't know nothing about that. I knew about the confrontation that we had as kids, and you know how that's childhood stuff. And I think we're at a point in time now where we got to put away those childhood things, and Ipsy being here, Willow Run being here. It's about what's best for the kids. And if we're taking away money in order to not to educate our kids, then we really need to think why we're in this. And I think as Mr. Menzel said, Ms. Kelly, David Bates, and everybody else said, when we come to the table, the bottom line is what's best for the kids. And if it's not best for the kids, then we don't even entertain it. And so this is very good for both districts because it's showing the community that we are willing to work together as one.
And just so that I can point out that Mrs. Swanson is also part of the committee, so she like Ms. Powers represents WREA. Sorry to put you on the spot. Everyone spoke, I don't know if you want to chime in on anything, or since you came in late, we were just talking about the committee and where we're headed, what we've been doing, and especially what's on the motion tonight about the negotiating into the contract with the co-location of the facility.
I heard what Foster students, so I concur with that. And the group has been working with that in mind, so a lot of representation for a lot of people.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you for coming out, thanks for supporting us, and thank you for being there. Approval of proposal of transportation services.
Mr. President, I move that the Willow Run Board of Education authorize the superintendent to issue a joint request for proposal with Ypsilanti Public Schools to seek a subcontractor to provide service for single transportation system to operate in the Willow Run and Ypsilanti school districts.
Support. It has been moved and supported that the Willow Run Board of Education authorizes the superintendent to issue a joint request for a proposal with Ypsilanti Public Schools to seek a subcontractor to provide service for a single transportation system to operate in the Willow Run and Ypsilanti school district. Discussion.
Well, like Mr. Menzel said, we just have to make sure that we are doing our due diligence and that we are looking at every avenue. And this is just another part of making sure that we are looking at everything. So the request for proposal, we need to put that out there to see what's out there, to talk about being one. It doesn't mean that it can't happen with what we have, but we just need to further look into it so that we can say our due diligence has been done. I don't know if anyone else on, Mr. Menzel, if you want to add a little bit more detail to that?
Well, I just point out that as you look at the cost pressures that we have in public education, particularly the retirement rate, projected to be 27% next year and over 30% in the next couple of years. The question is, can we afford to continue paying that much in retirement? Of every dollar that we spend on transportation, 25 cents, almost 30, in a few years will be spent on those retirement costs, over which we have no control. And it's not, no one at the table wants to move towards a privatization. At least I didn't hear a lot of desire to move in that direction. But we all felt like we had an obligation to put a proposal out and see what the market would come back with. It allows us then as the ISD to look at what our numbers look like and what we can offer and then do an honest comparison. But without doing an RFP, it's speculation. So some people always say, well, you could have saved a lot of money if you would have done that. Well, we won't know until we actually take bids. So the recommendation was to actually put it on the street so that we could see what the numbers actually look like.
What impact would this have on Ann Arbor? Aren't they part of the ISD Transportation Services and they're not in here
Right.
doing this, so why not?
So it's a fair question. I had a conversation with Dr. Green and let her know that we were taking this recommendation forward. Ann Arbor is in the process of actually looking at all of its options as well. They're not at the point where we are in terms of the relationship between the two districts, but they're looking at needing to cut $14 million from their budget and everything's on the table. So I suspect that they'll be entertaining something like this, or at least it's possible they will, as a result of having to look at their budget pressures as well. So we won't, as an ISD, we're going to keep them in the loop, have a conversation. If they wanted to join in an RFP that we're putting out, they'd be more than welcome to do so. If they want to contract with us individually, they could, but we will absolutely be respectful of that relationship.
Have they been asked?
I put it on the table for her in terms of what we were doing and made the offer that if they were interested in participating, she should let me know.
As a refresher, how many other districts in the county entered into the ISD agreement?
There were only three. There was Ypsi, Willow Run, and Ann Arbor.
Did you receive a response from Dr. Green?
Well, I had a face-to-face conversation with her at our meeting. I haven't had any follow-up at this point.
Mr. President, I have a concern, because in January when we was at the MSA, I talked to several districts up there who had gone to basically private